Hello, hello. I've got a little bit of a funny story upon this return to YouTube, which I hope continues. I filmed this look being applied with these brushes, and then I realized I filmed it live on the wrong channel. So rather than redo the whole look, I'm just going to talk about the brushes and how I use them to apply this makeup look. So basically, I started from scratch. I had just washed my face. I put a little bit of aloe on to moisturize. I put on the photography fluid, opacity 12% to kind of correct discoloration. Well, actually, I put in a little squeeze bottle because the dropper is annoying to use. And then I started applying the rest of my makeup. So, starting with foundation and then blush, eyes, lips. So, the foundation brush is the Chikuhodo F02. The fan brush here is the Hakuhodo F1342. This little brush here is the Chikuhodo RP5. This is the Sonia G detail brush. This is the Sue Devitt eye base brush. This is the Sonia G worker brush. This is the Sonia G soft definer brush. This is the Chikuhodo T6 brush, and this is the Kryolan 6M brush. So I'm going to be going in this order, and all three of these pink handles are from the Lotus set. And foundation hasn't really changed since the last time I did makeup with you guys. Still in a little palette. I have a little silicone spatulas instead of the lip brush. I might go back to using the lip brush. The spatula isn't really living up to my expectations, but I'm still using it for the same purpose, to apply and spread. And then I take the foundation brush and I blend. The F02 is probably still my favorite foundation brush. I've discovered recently that my skin has gotten too dry and sensitive for a lot of prior favorite brushes, such as the Fupa 7. My Fupa 13 is still soft enough for me to use. The Fupa 01 is still soft enough, but I was really surprised by the fact that my Fupa 7 was feeling not scratchy, but pokey. This still feels heavenly soft. You've got this nice little medium size so you can get in everywhere, and it gives this very medium coverage. It's solidly medium coverage, and it gives a nice sort of semi-satin finish. If you remember me comparing this to the T3, the T3 is kind of the same size, made of Saikoho goat. That one feels more firm, and it also leaves more of a matte cast, but I love this one so much, I still love it, that I destashed the Chikuhodo T3, and I still love this brush. Anyways, you can use this for blush, so you could use it for cream foundation and then use cream blush, such as this, right away on the brush, and then the next day you just you wipe it off on a towel to clean it, and then the next day you just apply cream foundation or powder foundation or cream blush or powder blush again. It cleans super easy, which is nice. What else? Here's a size comparison. And Foxay, they've kind of gone back and forth on whether or not you should use it with cream products or not, or only powder products. Uh, I think they're trying a CYA move by saying only use it with powder products, don't use it with liquid and cream. But I've been using it for the past, I don't know how long, at least a year, maybe two, with creams. Washing it, it's been fine so far. So uh, if you hear that you're not supposed to use it with creams, that comes from an official manufacturer, but I think most people use this with creams. This was a request for how to use, and that's the reason why I made the video in the first place. But I'll just explain how I use it. So this is an Ogi. Compared to a regular fan brush, this is much more pinched. So you get this flare and then you get the tip. So normally an Ogi is just all the way symmetrically fanned around. This one has an angle to it. So the way you use this one is the same way you would use a fan brush and an angle brush combined into one. This one's not half squirrel, a mix of squirrel and goat. So you get the best of both worlds where you still get this nice snap, but it's very soft, picks up well, and distributes well. So the way I used this was with, where's the product? Was with this sort of bronzer blush. This is the Sicily Orchid number one. For me, this acts more like a bronzer. And then I've been super pale because I haven't seen the sun. So I kind of just took this, wiped it all over the pan, redistributed it on the back of my hand. And then to apply it, I put the short side down where my cheek is and then tip toward where my eyebrow is. And I went this way, just 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then went on my forehead, short side down, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then the rest of my face, long side down, short side up, and then just like that to kind of bring color into my face. So the reason why I oriented the way I did was because this short side will apply color more strongly while the longer side is more wispy and will apply color with more sheerness. So I wanted most of the color concentrated here, which is why I did it this way, and why I did it this way, so the color would concentrate on my cheeks. And as for here, I wanted more color in the forehead where the light would naturally hit and tan. So that's why I did it this way up here. So obviously you can use this for setting powder. So you can use it here. You can use it short side here. And then because of that tip, you can kind of just fit it anywhere you want. And you can also use it for contour. Well, there's contour and then there's sculpting. To me, sculpting is more precise and you're actually sort of changing your features. Contouring, the way I think of it, is you kind of enhance what's already there. So this one, you're not going to get some crazy sculpting and make your cheekbones much smaller, but you're going to be able to put definition in. Same thing back here, down here. A little big for here, so I wouldn't recommend that. And it's a little too thick for highlight, but you can definitely use it for blush. You just put it on the tip here and you just fan it on, pat it on, and then just go back and forth to blend it. But I didn't use it for blush today. I did use it for sort of doing an ombre blush where I loaded it up on the tip like so in this darker peach color, and then I used this as a contour. So to use this to contour with blush, I started it with the color on the short side tip here, put it here, and then just went this way with it. So I concentrated most of the color and then dragged it out to blend. Rather than doing it the other way where I'd end up the color here and then drag it this way, that would look a little weird. So that's how I use this brush. And then for the apples of the cheeks, I used a smaller brush. This is a Chikuodo RP5. You may have remembered me comparing it to the Koyudo BPO18, which is now discontinued. There's a size difference, but if you're looking for a relatively dense gray squirrel brush, this one's less dense than a BPO18, but it's still much more dense than your typical gray squirrel blush brush. So sort of took this, swirled it in the bright coral strips here, and then popped it under here, and then blended it out in sort of these spiral motions. So this is on the smaller side, so you can get a lot of control if you want it. And you can also get a lot of color if you want it, because there's relative denseness, so you can get a lot of color in there, and you can over apply it, which you won't have as a problem with most squirrel brushes. This one, definitely possible. And then I used this brush, the Sonia G Detail brush, for my highlight. I went into this sort of light ballerina pink color. Actually, it is called ballerina. And I sort of applied it on the apple of the cheeks here, and then up through here. And then, so I went like this, and then blended it out because I wanted most of the light pinkness here in the middle of my face. And then I also use this down my nose. You're not going to get a super precise highlight with this brush, but you're going to be able to kind of add light to the places you want, like I like to do here, and then down to just here when I highlight. Obviously, you can use this for contouring. You can slot it in there. You can use it for blush. Under eye powder, this one's actually very good for. And if you bake, is that still in? You apply powder and then you take this here and you knock it off, and it's quite precise for that. Really good small angled brush. And I don't remember what the exact bristle blend is, but I think it's dyed, undyed, and maybe synthetic, I think. I don't quite remember. This is a Sue Devitt eye base brush. Pretty big brush made of Kolinsky, but you turn it on its side and you get a medium brush. The way I used this was taking, oops, nope, it was not powder. Taking a blend of this sort of mauve brown color and coral color, and I kind of went back and forth in both on just this part of the diagonal, and I put it here, define the crease a little bit, leaving most of the lid space blank. Normally you can use this just to apply a wash, and then you can use the tip to apply just near the lid space, but because I've been using this for crease colors, I use this just for the crease rather than all over the eye. You've probably heard me talk about this long enough. It's discontinued, but if you can find a goat brush in a similar shape and size, you'd be able to do pretty much the same thing, except for a goat brush would splay out more. This was a question I got specifically. They showed me a brush which looked like this, and I told them, okay, the measurements are almost identical. The thing is, the picture they're showing you is the brush unwashed. Once you wash it, it's going to bloom a little bit, so it's not going to be quite as tidy and sleek. You might want to go for a brush with smaller dimensions. And it also depends on how much hair they pack in it. The more they pack in, the more it's going to bloom. The less they pack in, the more it's going to keep the same shape unwashed. So it wasn't a brush that I'm familiar with, so I can't say whether or not it'll turn out to be kind of the same as this after it's been washed and dried. And of course, to manage shape, you can always put in a brush guard or wrap it in a piece of tissue paper to keep all the bristles kind of more compressed as it's drying so it doesn't fluff out. And then we have the Sonia G worker brush. This one is kind of a medium-sized brush, bigger than the MAC 217, bigger than the Hakuhodo 5523. This one, I used it in a light color, 1 and 2, to apply light to the lower half of the eyelids, and then also to bring it into here. Didn't really do much else with this one. I took a copper color and then applied a little bit on the outer edge here and then kind of diffused it around here and blended it out. So that's what I did with this brush. It's a pretty standard brush, but an excellent sort of multitasker blender. And I have used this one as a concealer brush before on spot concealing. So it almost acts like a finger pad where if you apply the concealer first, and then you take this and blend. It's almost like taking your finger and dabbing it around, except for it leaves more of the product on your face and less is lifted off on your finger, so you have better coverage. And then because this is a pure goat brush, I don't feel bad about using liquid and cream products with it. And then I took this elongated pencil brush, this soft definer, to put it in a little bit of a darker color and then lined my eyes with it. And then because that tip is so fine, I was able to wing out a little bit with the brush. And then this brush could be a fine blending brush. I don't find it soft enough for that. So what I mean by soft enough, it's not that it's pokey, it's just it removes a little bit too much color if you're not careful, or it kind of moves it a little too much and then you end up with a little bit of a muddy effect. So if you're going to use this as a fine detail blender, be a little bit careful with it. If you don't care that much, great. Otherwise, I'd find a little bit of a fluffier, um, softer bristled brush for this. I think this is dyed goat, but as you can see, there's quite a bit of snap to it. It doesn't have that flexibility and not infirmness, that wispiness you kind of do want with a blending brush. This one was built to support the tip, which is why I was able to wing out liner. You can also smudge shadow with it, but you can also use it for a smudging pencil if the pencil has been pretty fresh and has a bit of a playtime and working time to it. And then I pretty much can't do makeup without reaching for the T6 at least once a week. This time I just use it for highlighting areas. I use it to do a little bit more highlighting or brightening, sorry, under the eyes and then also around the mouth area. And I use this sort of pink color to do it. So I went sort of like here in a little tiny triangle, top of the lip, bottom, around, just on the sides. And then I didn't use setting powder today. So I might have skipped over that because skin's pretty dry and I'm not going to need it. So this one, you probably know, highlight, contour, 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 under eye setting powder, both for patting it on and knocking it off. Love this brush. It's not round like you would think. It's pretty fluffy oval. Okay, I'm turning into a YouTuber. I have my mug of tea. Okay, and then last but not least, I have this Kryolan 6M. This is a Kolinsky brush. This can be used for an eye brush, but I use it as a lip brush today. So because of the way Kolinsky is, it's kind of stiff. You can use it as an eyeliner brush for very fine eyelining. So if you use a gel or liquid of it, you can get it to a super fine, super sharp tip. You can do tight lining, you can do very fine eyelining work, and then you can also use it like a lip lining brush. I use it like a lip lining brush, and I use the broad flat side to fill it in. You can also use a brush like this with a shadow that you want to foil, get it a little bit damp, stick it in the glitter or whichever shiny eyeshadow that you're using, and then just paint it on. You will get a beautiful shiny line when you do that. So actually, the red lip was the reason why I did the makeup tutorial in the first place, was because I wanted to put on a red lip. But in the process of doing that, I threw in a couple brushes that people have been asking me about, and I was pretty sure that no one's ever done a video on an angled Ogi brush, so I thought this was a good opportunity to do it. So in total, these brushes, it's probably 2 or 3 more brushes than you would actually need because so many of them are multifunctional. It's just that whenever I have a certain brush, I use it for a certain product and I don't want to mix colors up. If you're traveling, you can definitely cut the brushes down a lot, and I would say the extraneous brushes in this case would be this one. Between these two, which would I choose? Let's see. I would take this one out, and then I would say I didn't really need this one either because I could have used this one for the brightening with the highlighting powder because I'd already used it, but this was already used with that product, so I decided to grab it and just use it around here. Because the thing with this one is it is a little big in comparison to the T6 shape-wise. If you look at the tip, so that's something to look for if you're looking for a brush that's very versatile. What does the tip look like when you turn it on its profile? This one's a little more flat cut across. This one has a very defined taper to it. I wouldn't call it a point, but actually I would, because this is kind of like a flame point brush. This one is going to allow you to do more, but it's also going to be a little bit trickier to control the intensity of the laydown, which is why I kept this brush. It's just easier and more universal to use. Whether you can get this brush by itself or not, I don't know. I haven't checked up on it in a while. So that's all the brushes. That's all that went into the application of the makeup. Let's take a look at the comments to see if there's any questions. And then I will hop off and hopefully I will be back soon. It's actually a good thing that the live was posted on the wrong channel because I had a couple interruptions come in and I had to get up and leave. Not interrupted now, thankfully. Okay. It's a Hakuhodo brush similar to the Niji Pro. From what I've seen of the Niji Pro, I don't have one and I haven't seen it in person. The Niji Pro is a lot more compressed and dense. So from what I've seen of it, it's probably the closest that you can get to the Tom Ford bronzer brush, just slightly smaller. But from what I've read and seen of it, it has this like sort of dense plushness to it that you can use to apply bronzer. This one's a little bit more wispy, so you can see there's bend to it. It snaps back because of the goat, but because the Niji's more packed, it's going to be a lot more springy and come back faster and also feel more dense and plush on the face. This one, you can see how flexible it is. Okay, let me run it around. I'm just twisting on my face, and you can see how flexible it is. With that one, I don't imagine it moves quite the same way. So it really depends on what your makeup needs are. If you want to just put your makeup on and blend it and go, that would probably be the better brush. This one, if you have time to stroke your face, or if you want to pamper yourself with time and stroke your face, this one's a really nice one. But I still am interested in the Niji Pro. I just haven't gotten around to getting it because there's so many other brushes. Okay, thank you. Yep, I think it's a combination of the camera as well as light. I actually have like a little softbox light now. I've been using the same camera for a while. My earliest videos were filmed on the integrated webcam camera, but I think it's the lighting that's helping this time. Any dupes for the Sonia G pencil? Dupes in the Sonia G line itself, she definitely has a couple pencil brushes. There's one from the Pro line. I got the Pro set. They're like the skinny handles like this. Her original set have the fat handles. Her Pro line has the skinny handles. There's one there. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it pretty closely dupes this if it's not an exact dupe. There's also one in the Sky set to look for. If you're looking for dupes in, say, Hakuhodo or Chikuhodo, I have to look into it a little more. Something good about the Chikuhodo site is you can filter by functions. So if you go to functions and then you filter by the material you want and then the function you want, so this would be a lid detail brush under their, or sorry, this pencil brushes would be a lid detail under their website. So then you can put in, go to all brushes, lid detail, whichever material you want, and you'll be able to find pencil brushes. This one I would say probably 10 centimeters. Sorry, 10 centimeters, 10 millimeters. But the Hakuhodo ones I know for sure have a little bit less of a point. They're a little bit more round, so they're actually more fitting for detail blending rather than like this one. I use it for kind of smudging and applying it to wing out eyeshadow as liner. Okay. You don't want to shop on Beautylish since they carry Jeffree Star. Okay. So, okay, that